Hello, everyone. Welcome on to this week's podcast episode. I am super, super pumped to introduce our next guest, Tyler Watson. So, Tyler is an elite performance coach, but you guys, I met him in person somewhat recently, and I dove headfirst into his world. So, I'm really excited to have him here and to share all of this like newly enlightened things that I'm learning so we can turn around and share with you guys. Tyler, thank you so much for being here. And
Yeah,
I really appreciate you taking the time.
you're so welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, you guys, Tyler is a cellular alignment coach. He sort of came up with the cellular alignment technique and his whole concept about like achieving your goals in days instead of years. I mean, come on, like who wants that?
Yeah. All right.
And I recently had the pleasure of participating in a really intense 3-day workshop. Intense as in like a good way. Yes, there was some crying, but there was also some laughing and some huge releases. So he's got another one of those coming up, and we'll chat about that a little bit too. But kick us off with like about you. Let's talk a little bit behind the scenes, a little bit like beyond the brand of Tyler Watson, and like how'd everything get started for you?
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. So for those, if you're just listening versus watching, if I'm not dressed up, I look like I'm like 16. If I'm dressed up, I look like I'm 18. So either way, people always mistake me for how young I look. They're like, "You have a business? You grew what? That's crazy." So I look young. I actually have an amazing, incredible wife, and we've got 3 kids and 1 on the way. So that's super cool. And yeah, my passion is helping people who are entrepreneurs and influencers be able to make changes in their business, in their health, in their relationships, and to do that as fast as humanly possible. And to do so without sacrificing the things that are sacred to them. So we do that by actually helping people reprogram their mind and body at a cellular level. And yeah, it's through a pretty cool process that took me some years of struggle to develop and figure out, which I
I
can
mean, but that's
definitely
where a
go
lot of
more
the
into.
beauty comes from, right? A lot of the struggle. What kind of got you started in this path?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So my dad's what's known as a clinical kinesiologist. My stepmom's a naturopath. I grew up in that whole space. So I love holistic healing, all about letting the body make changes as quickly as possible. But I grew up with it only in the knowledge around health. And I never really applied it to finances or relationships. In fact, um, at age 12, my parents separated, and it was out of the blue. I had no idea that they were going to get a divorce. They did it to try to, protect me and my siblings. To, hey, we don't want to let anybody know that anything bad's happening. But I watched my mom go through 4 divorces, my dad through 2, and through that I interpreted it as it's all my fault, that I could have done something as the oldest son to change it. But instead of, communicating that, I internalized it and I started to become this elite achiever and started to do all these things on the outside. Straight A's, MVP, class president, just all these accomplishments to, at the time I didn't know, but to fill the void inside. And through that, I ended up getting really depressed. Never told anyone, but there were times where I'd sit on my bed and wonder about different ways to end my life and if anyone would even notice. And this was from the age of 12 to about 18 years of age. So a pretty good chunk. Like that's like 6 years of going through this. And I thought that was just normal. So I just put on the face and pretended for years and years and years. And through that, um, I learned a lot about the mindset, but I also struggled a lot. And I turned to pornography, video games, depression. And as I started to grow a business, I turned to self sabotage. And then I started I didn't know it was a thing, but I was addicted to poverty. And so no matter what I would do, that whole year as an entrepreneur, I made less than like $13,000. And I ended up getting married, still made that much. And it was like so hard for me to get into a relationship, make money. And I thought I was going to lose it all. I thought I was just going to end and burn, just like I watched growing up. So
Yeah.
through those things, I had fortunately done some MLM stuff and got plugged into some personal development, which we've all done. Like, this is a form of it, right? And
Yeah.
I started to listen to some things which inspired me. And I thought, man, maybe I could change. Maybe I could make a lot of money, 6 figures. Whoa, that sounds incredible. 10,000 in a month. Wow. And I just got super excited about the thought of making in a month what I did in a year. I was like,
Yeah. You're like,
that
whoa.
sounds cool, but I had no idea how. And I had all these emotional issues that just, no matter what I did, it felt like everything I touched turned to dust and I just sucked. And so through that, I became obsessed with change. Even though I hated it, I became obsessed with it. And I was like, I have got to change. For things to change, I must change. And so I started to drill this and do all sorts of techniques and processes, things that I couldn't afford, and borrowed money from people. And I was just on this mission to, I am going to figure this thing out and do it as quickly as possible. And the next year, going through several different things, I ended up hitting my first 6-figure income in 7 months period, which was pretty cool. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And got out of the mentality of the poverty mindset, the addicted mindset, the struggle mindset, the just all that junk that I struggle with. I realized that I didn't have to suffer with that anymore. And fast forward, I, went through maybe 400 or so techniques at the time, maybe 500 different processes over the years. And through that, I developed now what is known as the cellular alignment technique, which is a tactical system to make strategic changes in the body that get specific results. So whether it's health, wealth, or relationships. And it literally is how to get results in as fast as humanly possible. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a whole equation we can go into, but that's kind of how it got started, was from a lot of struggle, just on a mission. And I'm still on that mission to, how can I change as quickly as possible and help others do the same so they can win big and have it all.
Yeah. And honestly, that's whenever I first met you, I thankfully was able to meet you in person. So I could really, really feel this energy, like as you're telling this story and sort of we're getting to know each other. And I'm like, whoa, like he's my kind of people. Like he's experienced things that I've experienced. He's had the same kind of thoughts that I've had, like being a child of divorce, thinking it's your fault, having like I still have vivid memories of as I was being put to bed at night as a child, my mom would like scratch my back and tell me if something went wrong to throw my piggy bank out the window and run to the friend's house.
Whoa.
Like, because we had a very
Yeah.
tumultuous home life. My dad was an alcoholic and all the things. And so, you grow up just like, well, this is just the norm. And it's like crazy to look back now and see as, quote unquote normal as I am now from all the things that I experienced. But a lot like you, where it's like you knew where you were seeking answers and maybe you had no clue where to look, but you had that perception of like being willing to sort of let people into your life, even though you were still feeling very, addicted to the poverty and addicted to the depression and all of those kinds of things. All it takes is like the most minute little shift to help you see it differently, that it like doesn't have to be that way. And I've always said, like, when it comes to money and stuff, I'm like, oh, money just burns in my hand. Like I've never been as poverty stricken as I was as a child. Like as an adult, I haven't really ever been that way, but I've never been able to like keep money. I can make it, but then it's gone just as fast as I made it. So there's something going on, right? That is like, why is that? And I'll say to you guys, like one of the things that really got me captured into what Tyler does is when I met him in person, I was having this pain in my abdomen since like January. So at the time of meeting him, this was in September. So I was having this pain since January, and I even went and got CT scans because my mom passed from colon cancer. And I'm like thinking all the things like, what's wrong with me? My insides, I don't know what to do. Well, so when I met you in September and I had mentioned this to you, and you were like, well, let's do a quick like cellular alignment. Let's talk about some stuff. The left side of the body, kind of signifies like resentment and you're hanging on to stuff and all these things. So you did like this, all the tapping and all the alignment stuff with me. And you had me doing all the breath work, and it was a couple of minutes. And afterwards you were like, well, how are you feeling? I'm like, I feel kind of high. Like this is like all the breathing, you feel
Yeah,
like you're just
that's
like
cool.
going to pass out a little bit. But I'm telling you, this pain in my abdomen, like obviously no health claims here, you guys, let's just say this, but the pain in my abdomen I have been having every single day consistently since January. After having that little mini alignment session with you, I have not had that pain in my abdomen, like at all.
That's awesome.
So there's something to it. And like you say, like the body, as much as we want to believe it or not believe it, it hangs on to everything.
Yeah.
So, and that's the biggest shift for me. I think that you educate people on that because it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with religion or your beliefs. It's like this is your physical being and it is being affected by your emotions and the things you've experienced.
Yeah. And let me just go into that because I think that's super important. Now, oftentimes we get it construed with belief systems of the past and stuff like that. Or you think you have to go to the root cause of the trauma of the drama and like pull out this huge thing. So that, as effective as that could be or can be, it can take a long time. There's a lot of ways to change. I look at changes for some reason, and even just with like AI now, like AI, you can things that would have taken people years, you can literally do in minutes with AI. So if an something that's artificial can help us speed up like 100 times, and think about our bodies. How intelligent are our bodies? The creator of the AI. And if we, being human beings, have the potential to create a creation that could speed something up so fast, don't you think we have the ability to make changes faster than before? So for some reason, there's this whole thing out there about that the only way to change is through repetition and passion, through putting in focus, through getting to the root cause, the trauma or the drama. And that's been taught for centuries. Or you put yourself into a state of unconsciousness and hypnotize yourself. So hopefully you're reprogrammed and then it works. So there's either you got to go unconscious and then you're like weird about it and it's awkward, or it's like, or you just put in years of repetition and doing it over and over and finally you'll change. That's like saying, hey, let's make a fire, take two flint stones together and let's just keep striking. And eventually that spark will spark and you'll get a fire. And it's true. And it'll always work. It'll always work. But for some reason, when it comes to personal development and transformation and growth, we are like still in the Stone Age. And most people out there still believe and hold on to the old striking two stones together philosophy. This is the way. And that's what they hold on to. But we're so open to letting ourselves change rapidly in the tech world. So one of my passions is like, why can't we change as fast as tech itself? Like, is there a reason you can't? Who says you can or cannot do that? Is there a law that forbids it? And no. So one of the things is like realizing, number one, everything has a vibrational frequency to it, a pattern. So I look for patterns in all things. Poverty-driven self, when you mentioned like money just kind of burns up in my hand, all that is a pattern. It's a vibrational state of being. And most people think, okay, well, if you drill it with enough affirmations and you get to the root cause, then you can change it, which you could, maybe a year or two down the road, doing it every day.
Yeah.
I've done it and it does work sometimes. The other times that it doesn't, it just creates enough frustration where you do something different. But anyway, aside from that, you could go that route, or you could say, hey, what if this was just a choice? What if I actually had a choice in this? And that choice was a vibrational state. And if I changed that choice, I could change the result. And so that's what we did. We created a system to get your choice back, that every symptom in your body, whether it's a money symptom, like Doug, who was trying to get to that 6-figure mark every month, but he couldn't quite hit it, or he'd hit it and then he'd have too much expenses and they would like take it away. So I was like, all that is a pattern. It's a vibrational state of being. So if we change that, your result will change. So after he aligned, not only did he be able to make more money, and he ended up becoming one of the top 3 affiliates of Russell Brunson within a month. He had a billionaire reach out to him and became one of the top 10 affiliates of him, and now is like scaling like crazy. So that all happens because of 1 or 2 changes, right? And disclaimer, not saying after 1 change you're going to make millions, right? But the philosophy is short, that every single result in your life is simply a pattern, a vibrational state. And if you change it, getting rid of what's called an addiction, your body's literally addicted to that state, and it'll recreate it over and over and over and over. It's an addiction. It's a pull. Simultaneously, there is a push against the thing that you want. So if it's to make a certain quantity of money, if you get close to it, you'll push that thing away while holding on to that past pattern that's similar. Your body wants to be in a place where it is safe, it feels comfortable, and it doesn't like pain. So what it'll do is it'll be addicted, just like some sort of a drug addiction. The same chemical responses happen in an addiction towards poverty, in an addiction towards not having money, not keeping money, not having respect or not having love. And you'll literally be addicted to those moments because it happened and your body wants to recreate what's familiar. So it'll literally do the old junk over and over, put yourself in the same situation again, where you get close and then it fails. And it'll do the opposite, where it's like, oh, well, now that this bad thing's happening, let's push away anything that might be good because there could be pain associated there. And it's doing its job to protect you. So it'll literally push away through procrastination, self-sabotage, holding on to those past things, and it pushes away those opportunities. So when an entrepreneur comes to me and they're like, yeah, I was on the verge, I had all these sales calls and no one showed. Like they were so excited at first and then they didn't. All I hear is, I have a pattern inside that's an addiction that says, I don't have people who show up, or I have to stay at this certain level. And an allergic response to, I can make a lot more than I feel worthy of or capable of or good enough for. So when you get into a state of alignment, it stops those fight, flight responses, those pushes or pulls, and allows you to be at full choice in your life. And you're fully conscious through the process. You're not in a hypnosis state.
Yeah.
It's a choice state, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. And that was one of the things that made me like perk up and go, yes, that's exactly it for me. Because at first I was like, I really needed to hear the description and all the things of like the allergy and addiction and all of that kind of stuff. Because one of the things that I think is the most powerful in your teachings is the redefining process. I thought it was so interesting how prior to our 3-day event, we had a couple Zoom calls before that. I mean, the value you bring is insane. So you guys, we're going to talk about his November workshop and you better freaking be there because like it's crazy. You got to show up for this stuff. But prior to the 3-day event, we were on some Zoom calls and we were talking about like God, money, success, right? Like all of these words that carry so much weight. Why? Because we've put all of this, that we've given them all the power and we've removed all of the choice from us. Like, and that for me was like the part of when I first started hearing you talk about this, where it's like, you're neither in this push or pull state, you're fully in alignment, and alignment means choice. I was like, yes, that is exactly it. And for me, I think that's where a lot of the shift happened, is because in a way, even just as little as 3 months ago, I was a little afraid of the success, because then what would that mean? More work, more something, more of something I didn't know how to put my finger on. And I think that a lot of us, we have those addictions and allergies towards even the things we want, and to really go through that redefining process with you and remove the power from the words. And I thought it was interesting how a lot of people on that Zoom, they were like, that was really uncomfortable for me to say negative, quote, negative things
Yeah.
about making money or about my religion. And it's like, but why? And then you gave the example, like, I could say all day that I'm a terrible father because I know that I'm not. And I know that those words literally have no power over me. Like that changes everything. It changes your complete perspective.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool is, so you have to think of, most people just think about, hey, let's change the mindset. Like it's all about
Mhm.
change the brain, change the mind. But what happens is if you only change the mind, but you don't change the body, you'll feel disconnected and things will still take longer than they need. So the goal is a full integrated transformation, mind, body, and now you have an identity shift. When your identity changes, your habits follow, the results follow right after as well. In this example where we give so much power to words, whether it's money, sex, religion, every single word has its own vibrational pattern, but that pattern is based on your past perceptions. So if I have gone through something, little Tyler, for example, and I got the divorce, and I remember thinking about getting married. And the first time I thought about getting married, I freaked out. I was like, there is no way, because marriage represented disconnection, pain, lack of trust, inability to stay committed, uncertainty, and a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So me, the moment I think about marriage, I read it in a book. All of a sudden, that one word contains memory upon memory upon memory that gets re-stimulated immediately in the body. Hundreds of different responses going on at once. Could be in the brain, but it could also be in the heart, could be in the liver, could be in organs, could be in glands, could be in different cells in your body. Think about it as cellular memory. Just like in a sport, you do something over and over and it gets that cellular memory. But the crazy thing is cellular memory is not just about repetition of things, but it's the state in which they're done. So if I swing a bat, but the whole time I feel like I'm going to miss over and over and over, and because of the past, I'm just ingraining that negative or non-ideal emotion in the movement. And in the movement contains the memory. So
Yeah.
within my body, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to get married, I might logically think marriage is a great thing. It's awesome. It's godly. It's all this. But somewhere in my body, I might be having this other reaction that says, head for the hills. You're going to hurt somebody. You're doomed. This is going to be terrible. You're going to ruin it all. And those are different areas in my body. So that memory is what actually is going to drive my next choice. And that is an addiction. So in the addicted moment, I don't feel like I have a choice. I feel like I'm a victim. I feel like life just happens to me instead of for me. And the game becomes, how can I take those choices back? How can I get rid of that fight, flight response, which is through aligning? And
Yeah.
now I could look at divorce or marriage, the word marriage, and say, actually, marriage is super cool, super fun. It's growing, it's amazing, it's incredible. And not just logically say it, but emotionally in every part of my body, identify with that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So good.
Oh, and that's what's so powerful about your technique. I love that it has the doing factor as well as the internal reflection and because that's for me where, like, I love mindset work. I love meditation. I love that kind of stuff, but I've always felt like there's some piece missing. And it's like, it's the cellular alignment technique paired with that sort of quieting of the mind. Like for me, that's what's been so powerful. And I'm so glad that I got into your world and was able to start experiencing these things, because as an ex-gymnast, I understand muscle memory. I understand it in the way of athleticism, of achieving a certain motion and a movement, but I've never thought of it as achieving six figures, as doing something instead of self-sabotaging. Like I've never thought of it in that way.
Isn't that
And so
cool?
it's really fantastic to sort of lift the veil and be like, look,
Yeah.
it
And what's
works for this
fascinating,
too.
you ever seen someone who is really good at sports and then all of a sudden they get an injury, but now it like takes them out. Like they can't ever get back and they feel like they've lost their mojo or they've lost it. That's because the injury is actually ingrained in that moment. So anything that reminds them of that will trigger that emotional pain, that response. So you can literally rewire your brain and body to get rid of that, to say, actually, it's a new slate. I can recreate it and I don't have to recreate an injury with it. It can be something successful. That same phenomena happens in your finances, where if it's like, hey, I've made a lot of money, but I lose it all, or someone takes it from me, or I wasn't a good steward, or I lost, or somebody like manipulated me, or maybe I paid too much taxes, whatever was a disconnection there. Thinking about scaling that just represents more pain. So why would you want to do that? You wouldn't. So your body's like, I'm going to do everything to stop you from having more pain, which makes more pain. And it sucks.
Yeah.
So it's all about just changing that, reprogramming yourself consciously so that now actually money can be fun. Money can be easy and have it, keep it, build it, and scale it.
Yeah. And I love how open and, you tell your stories and you share your full experience, like all the time, whenever you're on these Zoom sessions with your clients and like doing these workshops. And I can feel your energy through the screen. And it's just really the coolest thing, especially since it is something tactical, right? But you're showing people how to do it.
Yeah.
So actually, could you show us really quickly, like the alignment technique? So that way anybody who's actually watching this can do it like with us.
Okay. So I'm going to share with you a basic version. Okay. This is a shameless plug. So if you want to learn the full thing and like get in depth, what we teach, it does take some time. It's like learning a new language. So I'm going to give you a very basic version, which that is like upgrading from a bicycle to a Ferrari. Okay. So the basic is going to feel amazing. And then you might be like, hey, I'm in a Ferrari, but I would really like a spaceship. And so, or a space rocket. And so that's the 3-day virtual transformation, is like the rocket. Okay. So if you don't quite get where you want to go just through the basics, or you're like, I need the fastest version of this, there's more. Okay. So this is a teaser.
I will be at that 3-day event. I will be in the rocket ship, you guys. So
awesome.
Come join.
Okay. All right. So this is the basic version. We have got about 14 variations. The full one can take up to an hour or two or more because it's very, very thorough. Okay. Now, in terms of aligning, what we're going to do when I say align, you're going to tap on the forehead, go to the back of your neck, kind of like in this bulge here, C7-ish. And you're going to breathe in through the nose while tapping and out through the mouth. You're going to do that 3 times. That's 2. That's 3. Then while tapping, you're going to pant like a dog. 3 times. And then smile. Okay. So when I say align, that's what we are going to do. Now, why it works real fast, the reason why it does is because we're stimulating a fight-flight response due to the past pains and disconnections. We want to stimulate that, feel it in the body, tap where it's at, and then aligning, what it does is it is literally resetting how your body responds to things. So in a fight-flight response, your first thing to go is breath, which is why we incorporate breath work into it, into the nose, out to the mouth. And we put yourself into a hyperoxygenated state. And then in the panting piece, the only thing you can think about, it's kind of like that old, there's like an old story where I think it's Archimedes, and he's like got his student, and the student's like, I want to be just like you, Archimedes. And he's like, come to the ocean with me. And they walk over and he's like, gaze down into the ocean. He's looking, he's like, tell me what you see. And he like looks down and he's like, I just see myself. And he's like, look a little closer. And he's like, I want everything that you have. I want to like learn it all. I want to become just like you. He's like, you got to look closer. And he gets a little closer and he like stuffs his head under the water and he's holding him there and he's like flailing. And he's like, ah, like he's almost to where he's like not moving anymore. He like pulls him up and he's like, like gasps for breath. And the wise Archimedes or whoever it was says, when you want what I have as much as breath, you'll know what I have and you'll know what I do.
Damn.
So with that, the only thing you can think about in a state where you're fixing to die is breath. Your body wants to survive. So the panting actually puts you into a little fight flight itself, but you're consciously putting it into it. So now unconscious, you're consciously overriding it and reprogramming your body in the moment to say, actually, I'm in control. No longer is this past define me, I define it. So there's a lot more to it, which we can dive into 3-day, but that's kind of an overall why it works. It's kind of fascinating and it's super weird, but it works. And it's super cool. So
I love it. I mean, I think the panting and the smiling is my
yeah,
favorite part.
that's the best. My daughter loves that too. It's like pant like a dog. And who can't smile after you pant, right? So
Yeah.
While you're doing this, so the very simple version is picking something that you want to change and rate it. So let's take something that you're working on. So think about something you want to shift.
Let's see. I want to be able to shift, let's say making 10 grand in a month.
Perfect. So I want you to think about making 10 grand and that being so real, and 10 would be like fully real. Okay. Like 10 is, it's going to happen. You're doing it right now. Like all of it's in place and it's just like, oh yeah, like, of course it is. 0 is not a chance on this planet. Where would you rate yourself?
Like a 5.
Perfect. So we're going to rate. That's the first thing. You got to have a starting point. Now think about making 10K. Where do you feel the resistance in your body?
Like diaphragm, kind of like little, nauseous.
Perfect. So we're just going to tap that area and vocalize the opposition. Okay. So tap it and then vocalize reasons and doubts and fears and uncertainties, whatever is keeping you from making 10K in a month.
Not enough time.
I don't have enough time.
I don't have enough clients.
I don't have enough clients. It's going to be hard to find them.
It'll be hard to prioritize my day to day.
Can't prioritize my day to day.
I might feel stretched too thin.
Stretch too thin and lose everything and then lose what's working. Perfect. So while tapping there, you're going to align, breath in, out, in, out, pant, and smile. Good. Now you re-rate, tune back in. Think about 10 is like the ideal, making 10K a month. It's easy. You're going to do it. It's like your identity. 0 is not a chance. Where would you rate yourself?
Like a 7. Much
Perfect.
more confident.
Tune into that resistance, keeping it from a 10. Where would you tune in? Where did you feel it? So what we're doing,
feeling it up here.
Those following, what we're doing is we're going to acknowledge all the non-ideal stuff because that's the addictions. Okay. We're actually wanting to trigger that. And otherwise you can't shift it. Right. So we're just going to trigger it and then shift it. So tune in here, tap right there and vocalize all the opposition that could keep you from 10K.
Not knowing enough, like to get the job done.
I don't know enough. I don't have the support or teams or systems in place.
Don't have the support teams or systems in place. Don't have the help. Not being able to just focus on, my marriage while focusing on my business.
I might lose my ability to have it all. I might
lose my ability to have it all.
Yeah. Sacrifice my spouse.
Might sacrifice my sanity.
My sanity. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
I forgive myself.
I forgive myself.
And can allow myself to create whatever I want. Good. So we just kind of switched it there. You don't have to reframe it, but we're just kind of speeding it up. So go ahead and breathe in. In. And smile. Good. So re-rate yourself. Think about doing what it takes to make 10K in a month and actually being super real. Like that's a 10 out of 10. 0, not a chance.
Yeah, no, I feel like about a 9 now. Like I feel
pretty cool. So that's how fast this can work. So if we had a little bit more time, I'd walk you through a couple more in depth, but for the basic version, literally pick a goal, rate it, tap, vocalize some opposition around it, align. And you can tap and vocalize some ideals around it and align. So negatives, positives, ideals, non-ideals, whatever, but you just feel where you feel it, vocalize 2 or 3 things, and then align. And you'll start to see a drastic shift just doing the very, very basic version there.
Yeah. Oh, man, I love it so much. And I've even started doing like when I have one-off little pings in my body. For example, I was sitting on the couch watching TV last night and I started getting this weird sensation in my jaw.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, oh, ow, like what's wrong with me? Instead, I just sort of placed my fingers on it and just like listened. Like, what is my body trying to tell me? And, nothing really came to mind, but the fact that I sat with it rather than pushing it away or, trying to mask it or anything like that, it just sort of went away. And it's like, what it was, I don't know, but tuning in and just listening and being unafraid of what those things are that we might be addicted to or allergic to, pushing away, like,
Yeah.
man, that's so powerful.
And anytime if that spot comes back, what you can do, an even better question to ask as it's there, is I would ask the question, what decision am I chewing on that I need to decide and can move forward or away from? So if you frame it that way, it'll actually, like, the answer will pop up really quick because you're using the right questions to the right part of the body, and then it'll trigger a response.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we kind of wrap this all up, can you give us a little bit of a summary of like, I know we've touched on it, but alignment technique being different from sort of
Yep.
all of these other tools and techniques that are so.
Yeah, because there's a lot of different tapping techniques. I did EFT, emotion code, body code, all those things. I've done almost 600 different techniques over the past 10 years. Invested almost $750,000 in personal development and transformational stuff. And the difference is really this. The main difference is everything we do is all about allergies, addictions, alignment. Most things are focused on getting to the trauma, getting to the core issue, and figuring out the root of it, and then uprooting it, which could have its thing, but sometimes you chase those roots for years. So I don't like chasing stuff. I don't like taking a long time. So I'm just like, hey, stimulate the allergy, stimulate the addiction, and then align it. Done. I don't care where it came from, why it's there, the interpretation of it, who brought it, what mom did. We don't even care about that anymore. In my past existence, we had to go there, but now you don't. Now, so that's a big piece. Also, the repetition and passion. So if you just drill like affirmations, positive affirmations, but you have non-ideal associations to them, you're actually causing non-ideal reactions in your body, which is why it can take years of drilling positive affirmations. It's like saying, hey, I'm going to say, let's say I use money, the word money, and I'm like, yeah, money's good. But if I have it tainted, then it's like having water and putting drops of poop in it and saying, it's good. I wonder why I'm not getting the good water. Well, it's because it's tainted. You got to purify it before drinking it. So it's like a purification process to make it just as it should be, as it needs. So yeah, that's a lot of the differences is this focus, even though it might seem similar, is drastically different because it's all about allergies, addictions, and alignment.
Yeah. And I could see how powerful the like getting to that place of choice and alignment. I could see that in the 3-day workshop that I just did with you. I could see how that was so different from having like the affirmation work and all of those things, because in that workshop, we talked about gratitude and we talked about how some of these positives really aren't positives because of the way we're drilling ourselves and maybe even guilting ourselves when we don't do the positive things. And boy, was that like a crazy shift in that workshop, right? Everybody I felt like had something to say about the whole gratitude, like spin-off that you had during it. So yeah, it's really a whole new perspective when you can just understand like it's not positive or negative. It's neutral, it's choice. It's exactly what is serving me right here and now. And it really has allowed me to sort of live from a place of, not fault finding, right? Like you said, who cares where the trauma came from? Like when it really comes down to it, who cares where it came from? Do you want to get past it or not? Yes. Okay, cool. Let's move past it. Like I love that approach. because I don't want to find fault and blame and all the things. Well, see, life's not perfect. This goes out, whatever. But yeah, I really, really appreciate your approach, how it really isn't about blame, fault finding, digging to the core of the earth to find out the why. It's like, well, do you want change? Yes. Okay, let's make it happen. And I think that can just be so powerful. And yeah, let's freaking do it in days instead of years. Like,
Yeah. Love it.
So tell us what you have coming up. Like, how can we get on this?
Literally, we are having an event, I think, as this is rolling out, like a week or two after this. So if you're listening to this, you either missed it or hopefully it's still there. The link should be down below or in the comments or whatever. But it's a powerful 3-day. If you did happen to miss it, we will be doing another, so you can still sign up. Just click the link and you'll be able to grab that. We're doing a really cool special this month for gratitude. So yeah, click the link, find all the details. You can get in for less than like a burger. So the problem with that is because I've made it so easy to get in, if it's easy to do, it's easy not to do. And what I'm teaching could be so powerful for you. And the entry point is so it's almost free that you might just do it because it's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. But then you don't come. And it's like the allergy and pull is like, I'm too busy. So the sacrifice isn't really about money. It's about, are you really ready to sacrifice your old lifestyle, the things that don't serve you? Are you willing to put the energy and time in there to confront these things and to change and learn some of the fastest tools on the planet to make that happen? If that's you, I'd love for you to come. If it's not, maybe down the road, you'll be ready, because I believe this can help any human being who really wants to change as fast as they are capable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, this 3-day event, it's for anybody who has sat in meditation for days on end, anybody who's done affirmations for years on end, anyone who's into reading books about personal development. Like, this is hyper speeding that kind of.
And we tailor it to entrepreneurs. But even if you're a beginning entrepreneur or transitioning, or you've been an entrepreneur for years, then it's for you. I've worked with people who make 100 million a year all the way down to, less than 6 figures. So it really just doesn't matter where you're at. It just matters how fast do you want to get to the next level.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You could be making $10 $10 a month. Like, you want to get to the next level. This is how you do it. So yeah, all the links will be in the show notes for you guys to check out the 3-day workshop that's coming up. And like you said, it's next to nothing to get in, but you bet your ass you better be committed when you show up, because if you want some change and you want it to happen fast, it can absolutely happen. We did a whole thing in the last event where I was screaming into a pillow. Oh my God, it felt like the best thing I'd ever done. When's the last time you actually screamed or actually laughed? Laughed so hard you cried. These are the kinds of things you can experience. And, other people that are in your house while you're doing it probably gonna think you're crazy, but
I'd rather look crazy and be crazy and be wildly successful than fear it and stay stuck.
Right. Oh man, that exercise was it was hard to do for me.
Yeah.
And I was home alone. I couldn't even imagine if there was somebody else here. I'd feel so judged. Yeah. See, that's something I need to align. But yeah, I'll have all of the show notes for you guys, and for sure get connected with Tyler, whether you can make it to the workshop or not. He's got, his Facebook communities and the Alignment Effect book he has. Fantastic, really, really easy and great read. So Tyler, thank you so much for doing this and being here and just pouring into us. And I can't wait to see you at the 3-day event.
Yeah, we'll see you.
All right. Bye.